So the question is, how skinny do we have to be? I'm not going to mention any names, although it might improve my, let's see, improve my reach. But I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to talk about who specifically I'm talking about. But I am going to ask the question, how skinny do we have to be? I've been dealing with this question for a long time. How shall I put this? I'm not a beautiful young girl, but I've played one on stage. I used to be a working actor in Los Angeles. And one of the things I discovered was I was skinny enough to work on stage, but I had to starve myself to work on camera. I had a working weight. Now I'm 5'1", and if I could get below 117 pounds, and I carry a fair amount of muscle, I've been lifting and exercising a long time, but if I could get below 117, I could get work on camera. But the problem was I had to kind of starve myself in order to do that. I was making a lot of mistakes. I was eating in such a way, I was trying to eat less and move more. I was doing CICO, calories in, calories out, and I was starving all the time. But that's actually not the subject that I'm talking about today. The subject I'm talking about today is how skinny do we have to be in order to feel good about ourselves and get out and lead the lives that we're supposed to lead. One of the things that we're facing today is a huge disconnect between media weight and healthy weight. Now, I was a certified personal trainer for a number of years, and so in order to gain my certification, I had to do a lot of studying on body fat percentage, waist to height ratio, what is healthy, levels of good weight, underweight, overweight, obesity, all of these different issues. I had to know what they were. And the other thing that's really important is that during my career as a personal trainer, I weighed and measured literally hundreds of women. So I have an understanding of what the measurements and the weight can be in terms of what a healthy weight is. And then another thing I want to talk about is this extraordinary connection between body fat percentage and health, and also waist to height ratio and health. I want to start with body fat percentage. Now, if we think in terms of good health, one of the women who should represent good health, strength, power, all of the things that we want in order to be all we can be, would be a woman who is in our armed forces. One of the things that I do know is that I know the requirements for the military for women, and also what the target body fat percentage is for women in the military. Now, you can get in at different ranges, but the target is 26%. So let's compare that to, say, what a model's body fat percentage would be, or a Victoria's Secret model's body fat percentage. So one of the things that I learned when I was in the entertainment industry was about 19% would be traditional years ago swimsuit, catalog, lingerie, around 19%. You'd have to be a little bit lower to be in high fashion. With Victoria's Secret, I believe it got down all the way to like 16%, which would be, for example, what somebody would be cutting down to be in a female bikini competition, which is very, very lean, where you're looking to see all of the lines of the muscles. So look at the difference there. We're talking about the target to be in the armed forces for a woman, 26%, and then a target to be a Victoria's Secret model on the runway, 16%. Huge difference, a full 10% in body fat percentage. Huge difference between health and fashion. Let's take another look. Let's take a look at the ideal body fat percentage for a woman who wants to have a baby. If we think in terms of good health, certainly reproductive health, the ability to have and nurture a child, would be a pretty good indication that you're healthy. And a lot of people, I see a lot of searches on how high is too high, how much body fat is too much to be getting pregnant. But let's look at what might be optimal. And this is one of the things that shocked me when I researched this, is that the optimal body fat percentage for getting pregnant is more in the mid to more of the higher 20s, correct? And what we start to see a drop in fertility at body fat percentages as high as 22%. So here's what I'm saying, that optimal somewhere in the 20s. But if you get below 23%, below 22% body fat, we actually start to see difficulty in conceiving because the body fat percentage is too low. So I think that if we understand the huge difference between what the media is asking for, film, television, and print, and what health is asking for, I think we can give ourselves a well-deserved break on trying to be skinny. Now, let's look at another measurement, and that measurement is really, really simple. Body fat percentages can be difficult to calculate unless you're going to go get yourself weighed underwater or do a DEXA scan. It can be hard. The scales that we get are not very accurate. I have a scale that measures body fat percentage, and it's all over the place depending on time of day, time of the week, time of the month. It's all over the place, not very accurate. One thing that tends to be more accurate is our waist to height ratio, taking your waist circumference. Step one for good health. Step one is you want that waist circumference to be less than half of your height. So if the average American woman is 5'4", then you want your waist circumference to be less than 32 inches. At only 5'1", obviously, at 60 inches, I want mine to be less than 30. So wanting to keep that waist in the 20s and keep the body fat percentage somewhere in the 20s as well. The other measurement, once we get below 50% of height, would be if you knew what your waist circumference was at when you reached fully grown, when you reached your height. So I continued to grow until I was about 21. So whatever your waist was when you were fully grown. I happen to know, although I was starving myself and smoking at the time, when I was 17, I got measured, and at that point, I do know that my waist was 24 inches. So we want to keep that waist circumference within 2 inches of what it was at maturity. And now it's sitting right at about 26, so I don't want it to get any bigger. Why is that? Because we know research has shown that if we can keep that waist around what it was at early maturity, we tend to reduce our chances of some of the diseases of overweight and obesity, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, a number, joint disease, arthritis, osteoarthritis. We can help to prevent those symptoms in those situations. Finally, one of the things that's the most important for me to bring this video to you is this understanding that I really believe that trying to get skinny was one of the things that put me on the road to obesity. Back when I was put on my first diet by my doctor, drastic cut in calories. They took me off of things like, eggs and roast beef, and I started eating things like SpaghettiOs. Well, it was low in calories and low in fat, but I was starving all the time. And it was that hunger by restricting what I ate and trying to move more, swim team, which I hated. Sorry. So that was raising my cortisol, raising my anxiety, and actually making me hungrier, making me want to overeat. So we know that this drive to get skinny, this drive to get too thin very often can backfire and have the opposite effect. That dieting, cardio, excessive exercise, they do exactly what we don't want them to do. They make us hungry and they make us tired. So they make us want to eat more and move less. Let me say that again. By focusing on calories and cardio, by trying to move more and eat less, it backfires and we get hungry and we get tired, so we end up eating more and moving less. So what do? We modify with wisdom. I want you to think about the foods that satisfy you in sensible amounts, foods that don't make you hungry. Usually these are very simple, whole, and natural foods. Now, you know that right now I'm doing the alt sliding scale diet, which is a 30 to 60 day dopamine reset, which essentially is taking out all the carbohydrates. So people are also calling it right now, they're calling it Keto AF. No, it doesn't stand for what you think it stands for. It stands for Keto Animal Foods. I like to call it AB Keto, which is more animal-based keto, which is meat, eggs, fish, and dairy. Not a whole lot of dairy. I'm having some cream in my coffee. I find that cheese it makes me want to overeat. And remember, the whole sugar freedom, hunger freedom concept is I'm going to eat foods that don't overstimulate my appetite. Oh my goodness, I am looking forward to getting back to lettuce and tomatoes and mushrooms and cucumbers and all of the other lovely carbohydrates that aren't too high in fiber. And that's a subject for a whole nother video that I'd like to share with you soon. This understanding of the right amount of fiber, but not too much. Once again, too much can backfire. We Americans, what is it about us that we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing? And anything that seems kind of good, we think that more of it must be good. So more calorie restriction, more cardio, more fiber. It's like, no, no, no. And I'm not even really saying that moderation is the idea, because moderation in something that's bad for you is probably not a great idea. That being said, when you want to make changes in order to get healthy, certainly if the number one thing that you can do in order to lose weight for good and not gain it back is learn how to manage your appetite, what we don't want to do is start going after starvation and hunger. What we want to do is figure out, how can I eat and not feel hungry, feel good energy, and get out there and live my life? Because one of the things that I'm confronting when I ask the question of how skinny do we have to be is, I know me personally, and I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to limit my life because I don't think I'm thin enough. And this is a huge problem, especially when I know for a fact that I am within a healthy weight standard. And even if I'm not, back when I was obese, everything changed when I finally accepted my body. I got into the gym, I started to lift weights, I started to practice yoga, and I started to really live my life. At the same time, I started choreographing shows for kids. I was doing high school musicals for high schools and younger kids, and I started to get into serving other people, not thinking about my appearance so much. And this is when everything changed. So it was getting rid of sugar and grains and seed and vegetable oils, lifting weight, and then also getting into things that mattered beyond looks and beyond beauty, and into creating a life that made me happy and being of service to others. So I'm so glad that you were willing to tune in and take a look at this video. Once again, how skinny do we have to be? Understand that there's this huge disconnect between health and media, and that's our job as much as we can to get out there, live happy, healthy lives, make the contribution that we want to make without worrying about what the media and what the talking heads are saying. Just live your life. That's sugar freedom. That's freedom in general. I will be back. Tomorrow is a holiday, but getting back on track on Mondays, bringing you training and nutrition, and continuing to report on the alt sliding scale diet, essentially going AB keto, animal-based keto, and then eventually adding back in the above ground vegetables that I love so much. And I'll keep you posted. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a wonderful day. Oh, this is brought to you by sugarfreedom.com. See you soon, everybody. Like and share. Bye-bye.